Well, hello everyone. It's Jackson. I'm back for my second video. I actually am find myself a little dumbfounded and um incredibly overwhelmed with the response I got from my uh, effort on my first video. I want to thank you all so much. Um, Interestingly enough, and to my like mind-boggling surprise, there was over 3,400 views in just the last 2 days, and a few hundred comments, of which I read through all of them. I want everybody to know it's. I was gonna scroll through and acknowledge everybody through through your posted title, your name that you provided. But I just felt that that would end up being too boring, even though each individual would probably appreciate being acknowledged for it. But I went through all the comments and liked it myself, just to let you know that I saw every comment. And I just want to thank you. It's just, what do you do in that? I don't know what to do. So, all right. I've put a lot of thought into making my video better than last time. So here goes my effort at doing that. I first want to say uh, I'm in uniform uh, for SPTV because here we are at another SPTV channel. And I've got my bobblehead brother and I've got my SP bracelet here. So now that I'm in uniform, I'm reporting for duty and gonna get right to my job or wear my hat. Speaking of which, my hat, I did want to mention also that I normally have hair. This is called my winter coat, but a few years back, I chose to shave all the perfectly good, healthy hair that I had off of my head, um, in honor and support of a dear fire captain friend of mine down in Southern California. Her name's Wendy. Um, Wendy and I work together. I as a volunteer, she as a paid full time employee of Cal Fire slash Riverside County Fire Department. Many years. I've known her many years. Anyways, she worked herself up through the ranks, got promoted to be a fire captain. I believe she was able to perform her duties, her long lived desired duties as a fire captain, for no more than a year before she was diagnosed with cancer. And unfortunately, is a pretty aggressive cancer. I don't want to speak too much on her behalf because, number one, it's not my place, but more importantly, the fact that she's having to endure this, pretty heartbreaking, I have to say, in the least, uh, for not only me, but I'm sure a lot of our brothers or her brothers and sisters, whom I also call brothers and sisters, in the department. And anyways, her career unfortunately was cut shorter than she had planned, and she found herself battling cancer. And it's pretty common practice that when a fellow brother or sister finds himself in such a situation, one of the first things that we do in support of them, him or her, is that we all shave our head. And usually it moves through all the battalions and the stations, and we take group photos. And it's really, it's all you can immediately do that proves, not really proves, but just a strong show of support of the least we can do for that individual. And it acts as a constant memory, remembrance of that individual, what they're having to do. Because me, as an example, and I can only speak on my behalf, excuse me, I feel a little whatever on my lips. But I can only speak on my behalf in that it's you wish you can do everything in the world you can do to remove that problem for that person so they can live a strong, healthy life, and especially in that career career environment, the firefighting world. Um, a lot of passion, a lot of drive there, and a lot of pride, and so on and so forth. So, to be able to, to shave her head once or to say I'm sorry once is nowhere near enough. And being up here in Portland, Oregon now, and she being in Southern California, I can't go mow her lawn, do her house chores for her, take care of her, walk her dog, or take her out to a meal. Anything to help make her day a better day every day. So I told her the day that I did this, which I want to say it's at least 3 years ago now. I want to say maybe up to five, but the time frame has kind of become insignificant. Um, it's to me a constant reminder to be supportive of her, and at least in thought, and it creates conversation as to why the bald head, Jackson. So um, I then proudly tell them that it's in honor of um, my fire captain, dear friend down in Southern California, who's right this very moment having to battle cancer, unlike me. So I get to live a comfortable life. She doesn't. And, it helps bring awareness to not only her situation, but the gross significance of cancer. But, anyways, that's the reason. I also found that having a little light coat there helps during the winter season, especially up here in the Pacific Northwest. And, maybe I apologize, Wendy, but I take a little bit of advantage of just having a light coat there to take the edge of a cold winter's night, of which I work at night off the good old noodle dome up there. And, but nonetheless, I continue to consciously shave my head in honor of Fire Captain Wendy. And that's all. So I just want to give a little bit. It may even result in keeping the ladies away, but so be it. In honest support of a very dear close friend, and there you have it. So that's that story. Anyways, this video is gonna be a big shout out and a hello to OSA. And for those who don't know, I'll give a quick thing, and I'm hopeful that most viewing or listening to this have some familiarity what OSA means when myself or my brothers and sisters, such as Mike and Amy and Claire and Mark and Aaron and even Tony Ortega mention the abbreviated OSA for the Office of Special Affairs. I figured I would speak to the OSA people and staff. You know, More importantly, they're human beings. So the OSA human beings, they're there having to sit there by order and by pressure and in this fear factory that's at play that, I'm of the belief that they themselves don't even realize. But I just wanted to speak to you folks for a few minutes in that, you know, I myself and my other comrades, I guess you could say, exes, don't sit here and do what we do. These, what you call commit suppressive acts or speak negatively of Scientology and the Sea Organization and constantly natter. These are all terms of natter meaning sit here and bitching about something. In the Scientology world, that's what that means is, out here in the world, if like you go through McDonald's and you drive away from the pickup window only to discover your order wasn't correct, and you end up back at work and you complain to your coworkers that they screwed up the order. Well, that would be in Scientology's world natter. You would sit there and bitch about. So, OSA, human beings, we're not sitting here nattering and bitching and playing. What we're doing is telling the truth of things that we witnessed, were involved in, that go against the very grain of what, the creator of that Scientology Sea Organization world, L. Ron Hubbard, stated himself in that his intention is to make the world a better place. And that's what I thought. That's what we all thought. I can't much speak about all of my friends, but you're going to probably observe that we all at one time thought that that's what we're shooting for and we're working towards achieving. And only to find that to not be the case. And from that, I had this personal realization that, like you, I grew a tremendous loyalty to that effort, that common purpose, that common goal that we were working towards achieving, understood, and woke up daily, um, with a strong drive to involve ourselves with, to do, and show up to your little musters, or show up to the musters, and just do all the actions that you do as a Sea Organization member. And there's a kind of a there is a perception that kind of goes overlooked, that is really laying right in front of you, that I'm hopeful that will help you better understand why I and my fellow brethren and sister do what we do. And that is, when I was at the international headquarters, the main Scientology's version of the Vatican, is the only thing for the non-Scientology viewing and listening public. It doesn't, being in a place in which it doesn't get any higher of a subject that you truly believe and committed to. Um, Being at the imp base, the loyalty runs strong, and um, every effort, every action that you think of, design, and put to play is based off of that loyalty to that idea of, we are helping, I am helping mankind. There's not a single entity. It's almost, you don't even realize that you're not even doing what you're doing, whether it is writing a program, or, with what I'm more familiar with, keeping a property or the int staff secure, or an int based staff member working on the shoot crew shooting a film, or the grounds crew out cutting the grass. All of our common drives and purpose every day to do what we do on a daily basis, or do what we did on a daily basis. And for yourself, what you do on a daily basis is to work towards that common goal and purpose, which is to make a better world, to better mankind. Um, Now, that's the day to day drive. Amongst that, what I'm really trying to clarify or specify is that there's two actions that are at play at any given day in the Sea Organization, and one serving that common purpose of bettering mankind. But yet, I never realized it until having left what else was at play, and that was reacting to and responding to and supporting this state of fear that was being created progressively. At one time, it didn't exist as thick as it is today. So maybe that fear, that state of fear, that fearful mind, the fearful actions that you resultingly do once you find yourself in that fear condition, fear state of operations, that it kind of changes your drive of your actions. And what I mean by that is, like I said, you show up, you go to breakfast, you go to your morning musters where you're held accountable and all that. And your mindset is going to do the next task at hand, that really, in an interesting way, is being done at your own choice, your own desire, your own creativity. Um, you're, of course, being given directives or orders to do such actions, but no one's hounding or pounding you to figure out what it is and what needs to get, what it is you need to do to achieve that. So until, and this is really the specific point, this fear factor kicks in which it kind of changes the undertone of what you didn't, what you woke up with was that drive to help mankind, which is really a peer driven effort. And you know, I still applaud you having that drive because you know, I even still have that myself right now. Any day that I go to work at a paying job, my intent is to help the people I'm being paid to service. I fortunately work in an industry which is a service industry, and so um, this fear factor that kicks in. I don't. I didn't myself realize how often that became more and more at play the closer I was getting and arriving to my eventual actual departure from the environment. And that is, here's the example that I want to use that without really defining any other way. Imagine you as a staff member doing your job, waking up with that same motivation every day, working on the plans, projects, or programs that you've been afforded to work on. Um, and you suddenly hear that L. Ron Hubbard himself is going to be coming into your organization. Now, that, especially when he was alive, and especially at the Imp base, when we understood that that was a possibility, that was kind of like a euphoric, excuse me, that was kind of a euphoric, holy smoke moment for us. Like we were being honored by L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology and the Sea Organization and anything and everything Scientology, was going to be at our base. So imagine you being in OSA, you hearing that L. Ron Hubbard is going to make an appearance. He's going to be there, whether you're going to get to see him or not. He is coming, showing interest, going to walk the same ground that you do, be in the same building that you are, yada, yada, yada. Okay? That was an exciting thing. Your thoughts didn't lend to, oh my God, I got to get the place cleaned up. I got to get this. What have I not done that I should have done that I'm going to get in trouble for? Okay, that is the fear factor that I'm talking about, that you yourself are most likely living this very moment that you're sitting here watching this video, because you've been given the assigned task of transcribing in whatever capacity, however you do it, either picking PowerPoints out of my and my other good buddies' videos, our YouTube channel from SPTV, and having to pull out another ream of paper, get it all typed up. You know, you type it up in your computer, of course, and then print it off and then send off your report. Now, it may even be just electronically done nowadays, which, you know, Scientology's efforting, supporting the environment, and I'm not trying to be a tree hugger, but they killed a tremendous amount of trees. The amount of paper files that they have is just incredible. So, but you having to do that is driven not by that pure, what it's like, not by that pure effort to help mankind, but you're doing it with such effort to detail. And, you know, your thought process is probably bending towards, you know, writing down or pulling from these videos what you understand or you've been given direction to pull from and capture in documentation without anybody else having to sit here like you are having to and watch the entire video to get the information that's important in it. So, you know, you're having to figure out what things to say and what not to say and what to forward on in your reports. And you're being entrusted to do that. And I understand that because I walk the walk. I'm not just not talking the walk I didn't walk. I'm talking the walk that I walked. So I understand your drive, what is really an unseen compulsion that I myself partook in many, many days, many, many hours, and in an effort to yet again on this day, different from tomorrow, different than from yesterday, in a new unit of time, you are providing exactly what you've been asked for and making sure that before you hit that send button or before you send it off, it is the exact, you are providing exactly what you were asked for, not anything less or anything more. More importantly, not anything less. If you find out more, you add that more, thinking you're providing a bonus and giving yourself a hell yeah. Um, and then hopes you get some recognition out of it or be acknowledged for your efforts and the purity in which you're doing what you're doing. Um, and this report, is ultimately going to Dave Miscavige, whom I like to call Applebox Boy. Um, and Now, Dave Miscavige, different than L. Ron Hubbard, is the one who has created single handedly the modern day current fear factor within all SCIE organizations, Scientology organizations, and pretty much to anybody who claims himself to be a Scientologist, whether further identified as a Sea Org member, but anybody who believes and pursues the happiness that Scientology seemingly affords. That fear factor has been worked down through the web network of Scientology and the Sea Org. And the evidence of that lays everywhere. And it's only become prominent through those who've spoken out. But Osa, you also know there is a tremendous amount of people out flying under the radar who, in your eyes, in your ears, and to the best of your ability, your tracking and documented effort, that any Scientologist that you identify or OSA deems in good standing, I'm sorry to inform you, but it is a fact that those who are in good standing versus that weren't and were voicing it out, or they walk around with the intent and belief that they're supporting Scientology, want to be in Scientology, want to continue supporting it in the ways that they do, either voluntarily through, showing up and doing your addresso programs that you were asking people to come in and do, and was a crazy project in itself. But that balance of people on our side, people with the program that you think you understand to be, is gone. Like, I'll just use this. Here's this significant, maybe this is probably better. Trying to be closer doesn't really freaking help. So, this is the people that support Scientology and wholeheartedly are part of the program. And this is the people that weren't, and such as what you consider to be myself and our other, outspoken critics, is now gone like this. And the funny thing is, that. You may not believe in it, but you know it. And you know it because you constantly run across the factual numbers to prove it. But yet, you blind yourself with what you're being told by your dear leader, by your programs, by your... it's funny, you have this conversation with whoever your either coworker is, or your senior, your executive, whatever. You have these conversations that the Scientology's winning. It's not. It's the numbers are proven there. You don't have the ability to right now, or by dinner, to go to any of the 5 local organizations at a random time at any given point, that time of day in which you would naturally expect people to be there and partaking in church services, only to find empty parking lots. And the empty parking lots would tell you what, outside of a building owned by an entity, that there's nobody inside. Unless this became a world in which we no longer had the need for cars, we would have a hard time guessing how many people were in that building. But the fact that there's no cars outside is, in today's times, is very obvious that there ain't nobody inside. And the Scientologists aren't remotely counseling, remotely involving themselves in Scientology. It's a requirement to come into the organization to partake and progress in Scientology. And the lots are empty. And you could go anywhere. If you had the ability, if any of us had the ability, fortunately, we have many contacts out in this world, this non-Scientology world now, and people will go on their own time to peruse the local organization and just capture a raw view, a current raw view of what it's like at a current church of Scientology. And it's time and time again, they're empty. They're empty. Those are the most, that is in itself the most simple statistic, proven fact that, again, lays in front of your face, lays right in front of you from David Miscavige on down through the echelons of Scientology, that Scientology is moving so far away from its original objective and is only really surviving by their deep pockets that they once had. Those pockets are nowhere near as deep because a lot of money is being expended to keep itself alive. But more importantly, I just wanted to help you understand and see the reality of what's going on and what's at play. Now, this fear factor environment, David Miscavige works. He thrives by fear. He has no official executive training. He never was educated in real business world, real um, ecclesiastical world, which is really a bullshit word pulled out of a dictionary to make him sound good, make him look good. He is not he is so far from an ecclesiastical leader. It's like trying to certify or claim that a seamstress is a firefighter. There's so much conflict in the idea of Dave Miscavige versus the word ecclesiastical leader. Yeah, he pretty much is a seamstress trying to function as a firefighter, yet never making an effort to even go out and learn anything about firefighter, even recognizing that people don't are starting to see him for what he is. And I'm not trying to pick on seamstresses nor firefighters as an example. I'm just trying to use that as an example um, to help you also staff understand. That's what David Miscavige is. He's just a glorified something. What he isn't a glorified, but yet is factual. He's an apple box boy because he requires an apple box, or at least during my tenure there, anywhere he went to speak publicly required somebody, literally somebody, to bring along a apple box. An apple box is a tool of the movie making industry, the filmmaking industry, that um, when somebody's put on camera and the perspective through the lens of a camera from where it sits looking at whoever or whatever it's looking at, if it's a bunch of plants or if it's a bunch of people or if it's a mixture of plants and people and it doesn't just look right, and the real world, those cameras and plants, if you can only move up a little more without moving the angle or the height of the camera, well, that's where apple boxes come in. There's different heights of it. There's a small apple box, there's a medium apple box, and there's a large apple box. And the director in charge of shooting scenes would say, put an apple box into that plant on the left, or make Joe stand on the apple box, and make him, oh, let's try it on a medium apple box. Anyways, so as to not go down that too much, that's what I mean by apple box. mm. I'm going to take a quick sip here because the talking stirs. And yeah, you can tell where I live. I live in the Pacific Northwest, Portland, Oregon. Proud of it. Beautiful place. I'll get into that later, but nonetheless. God, where was I going? I know where I was. I just don't know where I was going, where I was, and what I was saying. So, um, so, um, Dave Miscavige has created this environment of fear. And as I was saying earlier, if you were to hear L. Ron Hubbard's coming to your building, you get excited. What happens now if you were to hear Dave Miscavige, COB, is coming to OSA, coming into your office, is going to be there by 2 o'clock? Um, let me take a step back. What if you just hear that he's coming? Your next concern is question is, when is he coming? Because running through your mind is basically, how much time do I have to get my crap together? Or does the organization have time to get their crap together to make things appear to be good, look good, wash your windows, sweep the floors, empty the garbage bins? Not only that, not necessarily something that Dave himself would be looking for, but if there was a lot of full garbage bins around and the place was dirty, yeah, he'd have take issue to it. That's not what he's coming to look for. He is typically coming there to look at something or involve himself with something or speak of something of which you may end up innocently crossing his path. But what's running through your bones knowing he's coming by a certain time is this fear of getting your shit in order, the or getting its shit in order. And what kind of environment is that? Um, what kind of world is that? I don't live in, the world I work in, it's a very corporate world. There is very many employees. They're all individuals. They're all there to draw a paycheck. We all are there to achieve a common goal and purpose on a daily basis. Whether we like to or not, we still show up. We still do our job. The people at McDonald's do the exact same thing. The people at Home Depot do the exact same thing. Yada, I could give 1,000 examples of day to day human beings working to do that don't live in fear, that aren't concerned that even if the CEO of McDonald's or Home Depot were to show up, they're not going, oh no, we need to go sweep all the dust from underneath all those shelves in the Home Depot and make sure the price tags are correct. You know what? The people are showing up for a paycheck, they don't care. They do, but they don't care to do a knee jerk reaction. Now, maybe the the director or the district manager from Home Depot for that particular store in which the CEO is going to be coming to, he may show signs of anxiety only because that is him protecting the very paycheck that he's working hard to receive on a week or bi-weekly basis. But he's not doing it for fear that his life is going to ultimately change in a moment's notice. And that's what I'm getting to, you OSA staff, is that you live a life that I'm helping you here to come to realize that that's a toxic world to live in. You may be 20, you may be 30, you may be 40 years old. You may not have much of a life experience out in life to understand that living in such a fearful environment, especially one that claims to be the best religion, the more um, logical religion, the more real religion out of all the identified religions. There is no better religion. Um, to be living in such a way under those conditions, under that identity, is really, really wrong. And it's actually like it did me. And you're probably, maybe, you cannot not say that you haven't borne witness to the fact that, man, that Jackson has got something wrong with them, or what he's telling is, boy, that was some screwed up stuff, or there's something off about Jackson. Well, that usually shows its ugly face when I'm talking about or shaking hands with some of the actions and things that I did, or I'm remembering from my time in the Sea Organization. And a funny thing is, here's an example of that, is that you can get me to cry on a dime of the one loss that I had in my life while in Scientology in the Sea Org. And that was more traumatic than all the 911 calls that I personally responded to, that unpredictable citizens of society called upon my and my brothers and sisters' services to come help them once they hit those three magical digits that they comfortably walk around in their back pocket every day in 911. You would figure that in today's world, that would be the worst current trauma that exists on a day to day basis. And it is in its own self, and it is to the people that never heard of Scientology. It is to those who show up and work to their workplaces, whether it be like I was giving examples, McDonald's, Home Depot, an auto body shop, a landscaper, somebody who works at Boeing, somebody who works as a baggage handler at LAX, somebody who works a wood shop on a backcountry road in Arkansas. You know, anybody in the world outside of Scientology um, would think that that is the level of trauma that exists in today's world. Well, you know what? There, the level and what am I trying to say? The level of disturbing trauma that exists in your day to day C organization is crazy because it actually attaches itself to your soul. Because that is, like I said, you get up in the morning, you you show up to your muster, you start your day with your drive to better mankind, only to then realize that what you're doing or what you find out about later on in the days is something attached to Dave Miscavige, the chairman of the board at COB, that you're doing for him, not for mankind, but you're doing it for him. Um, and that action and those actions and the time you spend, whether minutes, hours, days, or months or years of doing those things to comply to a desire of his and realize it's really a desire, not an order. It's a desire of his. It's not an order. It's a desire because it's what he wants to better his personal objectives and ideals and goals, not Scientology's, but to further his own personal ideals or goals and purposes. So, um, I'm just really trying to help you understand. And, you know, I also realize that you're going to have to transcribe all this and then write it up to Dave. Well, I'm kind of hopeful that this gets to his eyes so people really better understand, and especially those who are flying under the radar or people who know me that I used to work with and are trying to live a life quiet and don't have the comfortable ability to speak out, but you would like to speak out or whatever. Um, the it's just the fact that you're sending this on to whomever and ultimately Dave Miscavige, you know, it's pushing the message. It's getting the communication across that the gig's up. We see what's going on. We understand. We being anybody who's not in your organization right now that you believe should be or will be eventually. We see it. They see it. There's just different levels of being comfortable to live with it. I'm very comfortable with living with understanding and recognizing what's at play in Scientology and the C organization. Some people understand it, but they're not comfortable with it, and they choose, and wholeheartedly, I support their decision to do so, to remain quiet about it, and it's okay, and it's a process, and it's a very personal situation. It's a very personal decision, and I understand that. I went through it. I still go through it my own wicked way. I still have nightmares, tremendous nightmares. Like, oh my God. And just a side note, Osa, and anybody else listening for that matter, you would think that through what I witnessed and stuck my fingers in and responded to in my 20 years of firefighting, that I would at least have one nightmare from those experiences. Now, I speak of this, and I also realize what I'm speaking about, and that is the number of calls that I went on were like a grain of salt compared to others whom I've maintained friendships with and am aware of the internet or they're currently in the fire service or EMS service or behind the 911 as public servants. What I saw and involved with was very little, but from me as an individual, there was a tremendous amount of running towards people's tragedies and working as honestly and as aggressively and wholeheartedly and purely as best as I could, not only as an individual, but as part of a little team to help bring resolution and make their lives better. And you know, what do you say? I mean, it's none of us firefighters' intention to go, look at me, I'm here to help you. No, we are the people who are willing to be in that position, learn the tools of the trade, and look forward to being able to provide those tricks of the trade either at any given time, 24/7, 365. Um, Never once have I had, I guess I got to complete what I was saying. I, um, uh, I only had 20 years as a volunteer engineer out in Riverside County. I kind of feel bad that I don't want to over highlight that I've seen it all and I've involved myself because I haven't. I've only seen and been involved with the very calls that I was dispatched to and partook in. Those efforts have continued with those that I came to know and love and call brother and sisters, and it continues to this day in that system. So, respectfully, I only identify the calls that I went on. And over my 20 years involvement, I never once had a nightmare. Never, 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 never. And I could tell you two stories that would turn you upside down and stand every hair on your body, whether you think you have hair or not, straight as a needle and sharp as a needle, and you'd be going, "Oh my God!" Um, and yet, it's the simple things in the Sea Organization that I've had these tremendous, soul rattling, lingering nightmares. Something of which, because of fear, because I feared the consequences of someone else's established standards for which I would be claimed to be in trouble for, such as being late, um, not completing some sort of project, or not providing what was asked for, or not contributing to what's being asked for, such as sweeping something under the rug, um, not forwarding a positive image of Scientology and the Z organization, or one one of the many staff or executives. Um, you know, you living a world of fear. Well, actually, I'll just finish my nightmare thing. Um, it actually shocks me different than the actual nightmare itself. What an impact those have on me, and what what was or what am I involved in, um, to have such a thing that shakes me so much to my core. What kind of crap is that? So it yet helps keen me in on the sharpness of my personal mission, which is to expose the truth and to tell the truth. But um, my point being to you, OSA staff, is that um, unfortunately, those that are still in, you have yet to have these nightmares. Because I didn't have them when I was on staff. I wasn't fearful. I'd wake up sometimes fearful if I was overslept, knowingly going to bed 72 hours after my last time I woke up. Um, but, you're living a life that you're not aware of just yet, but you're becoming aware of through mines and Claire's and Mike's and Amy's and Matt's and, my gosh, so many of my good friends' stories of our relating to what it was like on staff. And I know that you see it, I know that you hear it, but you're deflecting it, you're bouncing it off of, you've got your guard up, you're not letting it sink in. But it's truth. It's truth, people. It's truth. I wish I knew your names. I knew at one time the people that set up an OSA doing such a thing, following such a thing, looking into these videos and absorbing this information and document. I wish I knew your names, but I don't. But to he or her who are watching my video and my other, any SPTV channel, basically, if you're watching the SPTV, Um, I know that some truth is sinking into you, and it's yet another day in which you shake hands with some truth, but then you slap away that hand at the same time while you're shaking it. And you need to keep holding on to that hand. Keep holding on to the hand. When you shake hands with the truth, hold on and hold on tight. Quit slapping it away, because it's just going to lead to a better you. I have to say, it will lead to a better you. It'll lead to a better life that you may not even be aware of, but you may not even have the desire right now to have a better life. You may think that you have the best life that can be had right now. I too myself thought that. I used to sit in that main booth out there across the street from the Star of California to the main entrance to the main property, and I used to think that I'm going to be here forever for the rest of my life. I am 1,000% certain that I will always be a silver member. I used to think all sorts of things. I used to think that I would never speak to the government and tell them anything about what goes on at that base, because I had no need. I would be the ultimate protector. Um, that I mean, I used to reaffirm and guarantee myself that I would always be there. Well, you know what? Here I am. I'm no longer there. That was 20 plus years ago. Um, and the funny thing is I've got to do things at my own choice. Stuff that I used to wish, God, I'd like to go to Magic Mountain. I used to sit on staff and go, God, it'd be great just to, I'd like to go to Magic Mountain. Even though we never were exposed to commercials or magazine ads, um, it didn't stop us from having these ideas of, God, I'd like to go to the Grand Canyon. God, I'd like to go surfing. Man, it'd be great to go, rollerblading or horseback riding, or to, you know, go pursue a hot chick in Hollywood. I mean, I'm just trying to humorously, say something. I used to have those ideas, those dreams, these things that I myself, as an individual, wanted to do. I know that you have them also. Every video that you watch, including mine now, is another step forward towards you achieving that. Well, you know what? There's a door you can just kick in. You literally could right now stop what you're doing, get up from your desk, go down the elevator, walk out the door, and be free. And we are here to help you. The Aftermath Foundation is here to help you. Um, help you in all aspects. You will have food in your mouth an hour later. You have a place to rest your head. There is no insecurity that you are otherwise being told from the inside that you're just going to go out and live a miserable life living on a bench underneath a tree in Skid Row and flip burgers for the rest of your life. The standard taglines to make it appear as though there's nothing but misery outside of the environment that you're sitting in right now. In fact, it is the complete opposite. And there are thousands of unspoken, unrecognized, but yet available people anywhere geographically that are more than willing to reach out a hand to help you, to open their door, to give you a place of security, of rest, of happiness, of your ability to be yourself, to be your own individual, no longer having to answer to or be in support of or answer up to this fear factory that's a place that you're currently sitting in. That's what it is. It's a fear factory that you're in. Um, I can't describe it any better or any other way. It's just that's I used to live it. It was that was the light switch moment for me when I realized that this is never going to change. My life is always going to be miserable. Like miserable, not just uncomfortable, but miserable. Miserable. My God. I can't believe uh yeah, I can't believe that was a such a incredible realization how once you recognize how miserable things were. But um like, yeah, there is plenty of people out here to help you. So you literally could just go screw it. not going to submit this. I'm done. Um, you could even spend time grabbing your own personal belongings and just numb out anybody screaming or yelling at you. And if they try to put a finger or put their hands on you, tell them not to do it and keep walking out the door. And if they do, flag down your nearest police officer and let them know that they are assaulting you. And you have help. You have help. There's nothing, it's all a facade. It's all talk. It's all talk from the church that this big threat exists from you exercising your freedom of choice. Um, in fact, you can exercise your own freedom of choice. Just leave. Come look me up. Look Amy up. Look Claire up. Look Mark up. Look Mike up. Look Tony Ortega up. Look whoever. Look the Aftermath Foundation up. You know, you you can look Leah up. You can look um God, there's so many people that are just in my mind that are willing. They're sitting here right now as we speak. No matter what we're doing in our life, we would drop what we're doing and help you. So, um, it's there. We're here. I'm here. And as a matter of fact, um, there's a number of people under my house, right now that I'm helping. And unfortunately, you're sitting there trying to document and find out about the people we're helping. Well, as a promise to you, like I promised these folks, I will not expose or lead them into any zone or any idea of a threat to their choice to exercise their freedom of choice. So I will help guarantee, as I'm doing now, those that are here that I am helping, um, that you're wishing you knew about, I'm not going to let you know. So, um, to continue to afford them their freedom, their ability to execute their freedom of choice. And that's an incredible thing. You too can have that. And I will continue to do that with those that I find myself helping. And I'm helping a tremendous amount of people. Right now, I could tell you there's six people, three of which are very close to me, of which I relate with on a daily basis. Um, and there's plenty of more. So, um, yeah, yeah, and there's no fear whatsoever that these people are walking around with. That every day they experience, they shake hands with that freedom of choice, that feeling of freedom. So, anyways, there you have it, Osa. I wish there's so much to be said. There's so many things I could help tell you about, but that's a conversation to be had between you and me when you reach out to me or you reach out to the Aftermath Foundation and finally get to live and experience that comfort, that freedom, especially whether you're 50, whether you're 12 or 11 or 80 years old. There's no better time than right now to do it for yourself. So don't be thinking that just because you may be too old to come out and be able to survive. No, not the case. We have everything set up to be able to survive, whether you're 12 or you're 80 or 90. Um, and we will see to it that you receive the best that we're able to provide you. We being the people around the U.S., around the world that have offered themselves up to help you, because they're everywhere. And that's one thing that you will never feel concerned about, that if you call asking for help or you reach out asking for help, it ain't going to fall on, well, sorry, we just don't have the people. We don't have someone there. We don't have someone over there. We figure out the problem for you. We solve the problem for you. And we have all the solutions to make such a problem go away really fast. So you literally could go out the door. You can make a phone call right now and call the Aftermath Foundation. Put that phone call on the church's dime. Call us. We will help you. You know my email. You know my phone number. You can call me. I'm hopeful that my phone would ring. How cool would that be? um, to then I can turn around and help you. Okay, so there's my message to OSA. Um, get out of that world. I'd like to see you as soon as I can. I will go out of my way to help you. So, for fear of going on a tangent about it, of my passion behind that, I wanted to get into a little bit more of what I'm going to be doing on my channel for everybody else who's listening and watching who's not at OSA, but is actually taking the time to come to my channel. What? To listen to things I have to say, huh? And be entertained by it in some wicked way. So, um, I'm hopeful that I'm finding that I'm doing a better job than my last video. I'm going to try to mix things up to make it more entertaining. And minimally, part of my drive in doing that is, at least if what I have had to say up to this point hasn't helped you OSA staff recognize and start and exercise your freedom of choice, at least I can help make you laugh, which is what kind of drove me to deciding I'm going to end off all my videos with telling a joke at the end of it, because usually what I have to say or will have to say is kind of morbid shit. So some of the things I did realize that I'm going to be talking about that I'd like to talk about, that I've even found from some of the comments that people are interested in hearing what I have to say about it or what I can tell you about. Um, I'm going to go through a bunch of listed items here, but I also would like people to make comments in your comments, because when I'm able to figure out through my incapable mind of how to quickly and easily do it, when I'm able to go live stream where I can sit there and, like what Mike and everybody else does, is they can sit there and field questions, which I would love to do, and give instantaneous responses. I can only do it through the comments section right now. So here's some of the things that I wrote down that I plan to, in one way or another, sometime talk about. Is, here's a fun thing. When I first moved into the Sea Org, one of the first things that I noticed that were really odd to me was the size of the frickin' cockroaches at the fountain building. What the hell was that? That was really shocking to me. Never saw them in my life. You could hop on their back and ride around and never set foot on the ground. They were so big. You could put one under, strap one to each of your, shoes, and get around. Um, let's see. I lived in the Fountain Building. I lived in the Hollywood Inn. I lived in the complex down in LA. Um, found out that my father, when I was young, first joined the Sea Org, he used to stand outside the Fountain Building on holidays with the gifts for me and my sisters for Christmas, only to be denied by my mom and church staff that he couldn't come in. That was a freaking shocker, because I used to wonder with my mom, why is it that I'm walking around in shoes that have holes in them? And couldn't understand or put together, what the hell? Couldn't understand or put together why I couldn't have a pair of shoes that didn't have holes in them. Well, my dad had them for me down there. Um, let's see. Oh yeah, I have to. I get to tell you about what I got to witness and share in L. Ron Hubbard's granddaughter. Her name was Roanne. Her birth at the base. That was fun. And then also her uncle got to interact and got to know Arthur really well. I knew him and called him Arch at the time. I don't think he necessarily likes it nowadays, but I was also there for the time that he blew the base. So I got that to talk about. And again, I wanted to mention that when I refer to people, there's some people, even just by their first name in the Scientology world, if I reference them, you're going to know who they are. So in Arthur's case, there's only one Arthur in the Scientology world that anybody would ever know. So it'd be kind of hard to be saying that. And I only bring this up out of respect to not only Arthur, but to other people that I speak of, because I can talk about Steve, Dave, or Russ. And there's plenty of Russes out there in the world, but those listening and watching, you'll know when I'm speaking about or of you or talking to you. So there's that. I wanted to go over my firefighting history as a Sea Organization member, which was something so unheard of. somehow I found a life passion of mine of a decision of what I wanted to do in life when I was 7 year old sitting on a corner in Diamond Bar, California, waiting to go to my, I think it was soccer or baseball, one of the two, waiting for my coach to pick me up. And I had this moment for myself of what I wanted to do in life, not based off of anything other than this decision. I want to be a firefighter. And at 7 years old, I couldn't go do a fire academy and become a firefighter. I still had yet to grow up as a kid, but I was very certain that I wanted to do. Ironically, got diverted down into a cult, and ironically, in this cult, something very much unheard of, but out of the good graces of Shelley Miscavige, she helped me achieve that goal as a volunteer. And I'll get into the rest of it later. I wanted to go over and tell you about the neighbors around the Golden Era base out there in San Jacinto, which I think you would find fascinating because I got to know a lot of them and what eventually happened to a lot of them, to the best of my knowledge. Um, Wanted to tell you about the sheep herder, Jimmy the sheep herder. That's an interesting, fascinating story. I got to know a lot of locals in the local community, a lot of Indians out in the Indian reservations, Saboba Indian Reservation. I was even part of a softball team that was put together to increase the public relations or PR area control of our interactions with them. I was on the bus that was traveling from one early morning from the Happy Valley property back to the main compound, the main base, but through the Indian reservation when the bus unfortunately hit an Indian kid who was out driving around on a three-wheeler. He ran into our bus and we went over him. Didn't kill him, but it certainly didn't help our PR relations and the way in which we were looked upon by the Indians. Kind of created some stirs, so I can go over that. I wanted to go over a lot of early int base details from the time when I arrived in May 1982 up until the time I left. But a lot of little intricate little things about the base, like such as why was the old Gilman house, the main porch, the main front of the house faced towards the mountain and not towards the highway? And a lot of the historical pieces of information around the old Gilman house, which basically was the original hole for the int base that not many people realize. The hole always existed. The hole, there was probably even more than one hole. There was a hole out at Happy Valley. There was a hole out of OGH. Then there was a hole in the trailer in which more people in today's times know about, but the holes always existed. So I'm going to help fill in how that hole has existed in its own way. I also realized there's even a little story to tell you about shoe goo. Shoe goo being this product you can buy that back in our early days before uniforms were really afforded us, we used to wear holes in our shoes, and the way we kept those shoes going was through the use of shoe goo, which is basically this rubber / silicone goo that you could apply to any hole in your shoe, let it set, and off you go until it itself wears off or pops out, or you grow another hole in your shoe because you couldn't get a PO, a purchase order approved to get another pair bought for you, but yet you still had to perform your job. Anyways, such a petty issue, but an example of how a petty issue, which otherwise is like, let's just go get a new pair of shoes, became a major issue simply because there was no interest of taking care of those details for its own staff. So, yeah, there's some interesting little tidbits. So, yeah, myself, my life at the imp base, I'm hopeful people find of interest because what I'm trying to do is help people fill in what it was like to be an imp base staff member and not part of the actions that were not directly part of the actions that may have found their way, like the goals and efforts and the plans and programs that your average Scientologist that's living in a house right now that would go into their local org to get services and discover a new thing about Scientology or a new tape release or something, those things all originated at the Imp base. I was never part of, nor was it ever part of my responsibility to come up with those, such as it would have been with Amy, Mike, or Mark, or Matt. Their job, their actions, their interactions, their things they did at the base would revolve around those efforts, either putting on a good event, an international event that you've probably heard of, or writing a program that would result in a new tape series coming out, or a new organizational structure being implemented throughout all Scientology, or plans on how to get more public in the door. I was never part of any of that. I heard about a lot of them. I interacted with those that did them, such as Matt, Amy, Mike, but I never was uh like I never got shot as often as Mike and Amy and Matt, because I never had to get involved in all that. I was in security. I was head of security. I was good at it, and I never got in trouble. So I was tenured on one job as a Sea Org member for years. Whereas Amy or Matt and Mike and Mark, you could be kicked from one job to the next, or find yourself being sent off to some location. So I want to try to give you a perspective of what it's like living that Sea Org member life for myself under that environment, because I got to interact with everybody on the base all the time. And whereas I can only use, it comes to my mind, Mark. Mark never went much to the translation unit, or up into the household keeping unit, or up to Bonneview, um, or down to the exercise building, or out to the South 40 as often as I did. I did all that in any given day, every day, routinely. So I got to shake hands with every Imp Base staff member um, quite well. I would probably say that me and my guards were at least the handful of people that any base staff member would say that they know, where any base staff member, say a staff member in the translation unit, wouldn't be able to give you a clue as to who was on the shoot crew, or who was in CMO Gold, or who was in RTC, because they never left their desk. They never left their task. And in the little bit that they did, they probably always found themselves in a foreign part of the property that they never got to see much of, or even knew existed, simply because all they did was sit at their desk and do translations all day. Or in Mark's case, he was the pancake IC. All he did is spend time down in the manufacturing building, or building 36, or over in the audio. And he would travel by many buildings there in between, but never get to go inside of them, or didn't know the inside of Qual like I did. I get to go through the attic of Qual. I knew how Qual was built, because I made myself know that, so I could tell my captain at the firehouse the structure of the building for our own safety in the event we had to fight fire there. So I took interest in knowing that as time went on. So yeah, it's just a perspective I'm hopeful to share with you folks that you've probably never heard of before. That when you look and listen to all these videos and stories from all these other folks, you don't really get to hear what it was like. You just get to hear of all these things, and Mike going off and having a good time with, uh, you know, the BBC, or in the IS event, or Mark without, I was never in the what do they call that? There's a trailer that was always there at the international events. It's like the TV trailer, or the trailer, any publicized event, any NFL, any MLB, any televised event on a national or international level, always had this trailer. It was the production trailer or something. Anyways, I never got to go in that. Mark did, so he could tell you all about it. I couldn't, but I could tell you what went on the BV. I can tell you the about the L. Ron Hubbard cars even. I got to see with him. I got to see the Bluebird bus that he last lived in. The bulletproof van that was at the base that was made, that Dave eventually made his. L. Ron Hubbard's personal vehicle, the Dodge Dart, powder blue, white interior, had a V8 under the hood, and a little story that I knew behind that. Or how about his Kenworth that was being built down in what we knew at the time called R Transport, with James and David that were there. I can tell you about the birds at the ship, um, the peacocks, the birds that were in the cage up there. I want to say toucan birds, but they weren't. Um, Macaw birds. They were macaw birds. We even had an African gray there. Uh, tell you about the people that stopped off the gate while I was on watch. Telly Savalas. I could tell you about the fire up on the hill, or the calls I used to run, or how many bottles came flying through the original security booth. Uh, the How we became known about and how we were respected by the local sheriff's department. The high speed chases that came by the property, the mountain lions that were up at Eagle. I can tell you about the supposed sniper rifle up at Eagle. Never was, never would be. No, it's not there. I can help disabuse that. I can help you understand the design and development of the security system at the Imp Base and what you see in today's world, the spikes on the fence, which they're not, well, they're spikes, but you're kind of stepping on territory of pride, weird pride, but that was my security system. I helped develop it, I helped design it. I certainly saw to its installation and its maintenance. I was the one held accountable to get the final pass by Marty Rathbun, and thus COB, that the security system was deemed installed, functioning, and effective. Because I'll never forget those days in which I was being inspected for that and given the final ominous dominus that your security system is awesome. It's good to go. It's functioning as it was designed, and then how it became what it is you see today, how it flip-flopped from keeping people out to keeping not only people out, but also the people that are in, keeping them in. I can tell you about the history of the dogs on the property, animals on the property, how staff at the Imp Base were the only Sea Org members anywhere that I knew of that were allowed to have personal pets. I could tell you about the galley staff and the meals that we ate and the type of parties that we had and what happened at some parties and what happened at after parties over the years from the early 80s up until when I left in 96. I can tell you about the history of earthquakes and the history of what it was like living through an earthquake on that property and what we did to prepare ourselves. I can even tell you about this underground society that I traveled down to the South Bay area in Southern California based off of Peter Schless giving me the heads up that there's people that you can go down there and sit in and listen in on, and they'll tell you about the underground networking that goes on of how such things come about. And yeah, there was the North Wedge earthquake was man-made, by the way, at least from the information that I found. But there's a story behind that and how I found that out. To people up on top of the mountain and all the hills up behind the property up on North Mountain and all the geographics between our property and Happy Valley and how to get there. I knew all those back roads. I still have a key to the gate up off of Lambs Canyon that gained us access to that. What it was like when I left. See, I got a bunch of stuff I can tell you about. I'm going to have to remember all these things, but I got loads of information of helping you better understand the day in life as an Imp-based staff member. And from my perspective as in security and the head of security. And no, Osa, I wasn't just a gate opener. I didn't just open and close a gate, but I'll tell you about the history from my beginning days when the media barrage hit the base, helicopters, and I had cameras and zoomed in on my faces. Where's L. Ron Hubbard? And then hearing my mom saw me on TV when I went to visit her once down at the Cadet Estates Organization, which is where the original place where all the babies were down in Los Angeles, down by CC, which is where the current pavilion is. There used to be a building there called the CEO, which is where all the kids were housed in. And anyways, I can even tell you about after L. Ron Hubbard passed, the staff that were sent to Creston from the Imp Base, who those staff were, because they all were brought back, put under ethics, and they were hand delivered to me by Dave Miscavige himself And I went through all their personal belongings. I confiscated all their pictures. I got to see what not many people got to see in that world of some secrecy. So there's a coined phrase. I got to see what most people didn't get to see, the church about the church of secrecy. Anyways, um, so I got to see a lot of photographs of Creston, which was kind of unique as a Sea Org member and Scientologist in itself. Um, I stood there and went through Annie Tidman, Annie Broker, Annie Logan's personal belongings with Shelly and Dave, all of us sitting around going through pockets and stuff. They come and help me. Yeah, anyways, there's tons of stories. Tons of stories. So I'm hopeful that it'll be productive because ultimately it's going to take me down the path of remembering key things that um, ended up being done to or enforced upon your average Scientologist down in Los Angeles. And I'll give you a quick example of that. Um, Say there was a staff member down at CC, um, the Celebrity Center in Los Angeles, as an example, um, who found themselves having to deal with one of the celebrity public, whether a high profile celebrity public or a low profile, anybody who was part of the public to be served at CC International or Celebrity Center International in Los Angeles was considered a high profile person. So, um, but when they were there for services such as to study a course, such as I could give an example. If John Travolta and Kirstie Alley were studying at CC, they would both study under the same guidelines and be treated the same way in the technical execution of their studies. So if there was a word they didn't understand, they both had their own simple word that they didn't understand or were having trouble studying something. The same techniques would be applied to them. Well, um, say there was a program to get those celebrities into the course room where one time they hadn't been there for months or years. Well, up at the IMP base, that would be something that was realized. And an IMP-based staff member, such as I'll use Amy as an example, because I can guarantee you she'll relate to something like this. If Dave were down at Celebrity Center International, discovered that John or Kirstie had not been on course for months, he would do the old what the F moment and walk out and then leave and eventually come back to the base, go down and see Amy in the CMO building where WDC, where Amy's office, and just chew her ass. Or he'll decide to chew Mark Yeager's ass, who would then in turn chew Amy's ass. And then put Amy in the position of coming up, how is she going to solve this? Well, Amy just herself may have gone through a whole ethics handling. And she was put out to pasture to go shovel shit out in the South 40 in her uniform. And all at the design and direction of Dave, because Dave was pissed off at her for John and Kirstie are not on course and they haven't been for months. And what the fuck, Amy? And come up and obliviate her and change her world or life. And Amy may have not been taken off post at that time, but yet she would have been put through the ringer of this now flap. And in the course of her that, she would be out there in a uniform in her whites in the hot summer sun digging trenches, or her team share cards would have been taken away, or she ate rice and beans for the next 3 weeks. Well, Amy, in her own fearful effort, in an effort to comply to Dave, somehow come up with a solution that would work. Once presented to him, you would figure it would make sense in his mind, and he felt satisfaction that you were effectively handling this problem in Los Angeles. Because she ate rice and beans for 3 weeks, she would go down to Los Angeles and see to it that everybody down there ate rice and beans for 3 weeks. So all the course supervisors, the case supervisors, the course room supervisor, the word clear, everybody that had anything to do with the lack of John or Kirstie being there on course, from the president on down in Los Angeles, Amy would execute and then report back up that, sir, I went down there and I screamed and yelled and I put them on rice and beans and put them all through conditions, and now John and Kirstie are on course. Done, sir. Well, interestingly enough, I would sit in that booth, and before as Amy was traveling to Los Angeles on the daily run van, it's called the Run, where Brenda would drive it to and from, and that's how either the communication particles or staff would travel to and from Los Angeles. Amy would have to present to me at my booth, and I'd have to check and make sure that everybody had an authorized completed staff work or CSW. And Amy, I distinctly remember it was something that Amy was going down there to do what was done here down there. And she had to present this. And I got to see her little details of why she was going to LA. And I got to see everybody it was authorized by, because I had to verify that everybody had proper authorization, went through all the channels. And I could not let people leave the base who didn't have all that. So if Amy's CSW had 4 people on it and 3 of the 4 people signed on it, but one of those 4 people hadn't, I could not let Amy leave. So she would make sure that she would not be goofing up any of her efforts to get down to LA to quickly resolve this before she had to report back to Dave. So I got to see these little things as they were happening. That was my live shake with the pulse. It's like, my God. And I used to remember these people are going down to change people's lives. They're going to go right the ship. They're going to go right the wrongs and make things better. So anyways, I got to see all that. And that's what I mean by my getting to shake hands with the soft underbelly of Scientology and the Sea Organization. Anyways, I see that I'm up to an hour and 21 minutes. I also wanted to say too that today is the 10th of May, 2023, and it's now 10 minutes to 1 Pacific time. I just wanted to say that because I kind of felt that I needed to say that to help people put a time frame to when I actually created this to when they're now listening it. So rather than clickety click around to figure out when did Jackson put this out, well, when you're watching it, I can tell you that. It also let Osa know of how recent I've had people under here that I'm here helping. And, I just wanted to let you know that it's real and it's happening. So I'm going to continue doing it. And, yeah, there you have it. So what do I say? What do I do? Oh yeah, my jokes. Okay. So now that I went down that morbid path, I actually put together a list of my jokes. So I have my YouTube joke list that I created, my little files. So for your convenience, here's my effort to put a little smile on your face and a little giggle in your step. Okay. Because that is really what life's all about. And all right, so here we go. So, hey, I drove my car, which is a Subaru, by the way, real fast by a girl I saw the other day. I was trying to impress her. That makes sense. I hope I delivered that right. So, hey, I drove my car, which is a Subaru, by the way, real fast the other day to impress. No, not to impress. Anyways, I'm screwing it up. I'll get on the next joke. So, what do you call it when Batman skips church? Christian Bale. Makes sense? Okay. An Irishman walks out of a bar. See, that silence should serve the punchline, because you never would find an Irishman walking out of a bar now, would you? Okay. All right. So I also include some Chuck Norris jokes because, you know what? In a weird, wicked way, this undertone thing about Chuck Norris, he's the biggest and baddest. Well, Dave thinks he's even bigger than Chuck Norris. He would take these jokes as an insult to him because, oh yeah, I'm meaner and badder than Chuck Norris. Yeah, right, you little freaking idiot. All right, so, I just find these things absolutely hilarious. So here's my Chuck Norris jokes. Chuck Norris doesn't read books. He stares them down until he gets the information he wants. Isn't that incredible? Excuse me, I still got a lingering waking up in my thing. So All right, here's one. If you spell Chuck Norris in Scrabble, you win forever. Chuck Norris breathes air 5 times a day. In the beginning, there was nothing. Then Chuck Norris roundhouse kicked a nothing and told it to get a job. Oh my God. Chuck Norris has a mug of nails instead of coffee in the morning. All right. Well, I'm hopeful that those put a chuckle in your step, and I'm hope that you find what I all I had to say was entertaining, minimally informative, and OSA staff listening and having to transcribe in whatever way that you do nowadays, electronically or in hard copy. Um, oh yeah, I just remembered another story, and in particular, this is a story I want to relate because I know it's going to bug the hell out of Dave that I even mentioned anything about it, but um, the income mission, uh, TR, income in LA, screwing doors shut. How does that sound, Osa? This is gonna be a story that it's gonna come out in detail because, yep, I was personally put in charge of the security of that RTC mission by Dave Miscavige and Dave Miscavige himself, who also verbally authorized I had carte blanche to whomever and whatever I needed and wanted for that mission. And the things that I witnessed or contributed to through the entirety of that mission from beginning to end, um, I'm going to give a complete rundown on it. So I got to make sure I make a note of that. Income mission. All right. So I hope you had a good time today. I hope you had a good chuckle with the jokes that I made a pretty lame effort on delivering. And I'll get better with it, but there you have it. I hope you have a good day because I know I will. I go back to work tonight, and I'm going to try to make another video here shortly. I do hope, just as a little side note, that I have a desire to do a live stream. For some reason, I haven't been invited, and I'm hopeful to one day, into, Mike and Mark, or be a filler in that, because I find myself yelling at the screen often. I've got information, I can help with that, where people are asking questions about certain things, and Mike, Mark, or Aaron are trying to answer it, but they just don't know because they weren't there. Or I was there and I can give a perspective of something. I just feel I have some, at the time that's happening, some positive input and to fill some gaps to our listening public. Which is really, again, my motivation is why I find myself, I got an answer. I can't type fast enough, or I keep finding, I see, got to pay for these chats or whatever, how you get your word up on the screen to get some information, and whether it pans out to be valid input or not, I don't know. That's what I find myself doing. So hopefully one day I can be a good filler in the absence of one of those fine folks who helped get SPTV off the ground and running, which is freaking fabulous. You know what? Dave spent millions of dollars putting together, obtaining the old KCET TV station property down in Los Angeles. And you know, it doesn't cost us a dime to sit here and click around. And I guess it costs us money to have an internet connection and buy this microphone and stuff like that. But it doesn't cost anything compared to what Dave has spent to try to cover up his crimes and cover up the non-truth, whereas it doesn't cost us anything to provide the truth and provide the true information that our listening and viewing public are truly after, which is the truth, and no longer feel they're being fed a bunch of BS. So I'm just hopeful that I'm doing my part here. So, I again, before I sign off, just want to give a wholehearted thank you to everybody who watched before, who made comments, and whether you didn't make a comment, the fact that that you even watched, there's 3,400 people. That is just mind-boggling. Um, 3,400 people. I would hope that 3,399 of those were actually no. I wish that well, actually no. I hope that 399 of those 3,400 people are under the radars in one form or another, or former staff members and friends of mine that want to reach out and talk to me, but more importantly are actually listening to this, because that 3,400th person is one, and that one person is somebody at OSA watching, that will not reach out and respond. As overwhelming it was a be, I would like to see 399 responses and subscribers to my channel, because I want you to be comfortable with attaching yourself to this line of truth, the truth about Scientology and the SCIE organization, and shake free of that fear that exists, and be happy to be part of this growing community, this place in which you can come to get the information you've always been in seek of, you've been searching for, you've been looking for, you want confirmation that it actually does happen. Where did it happen? Where did it start? So, okay. And that's what I got to say. I plan to even make my next video better, and better quality. I hope there wasn't a lot of freeze framing. I don't know how to do that technically yet and improve that, but nothing froze on my end. I hope it didn't freeze on yours. At least I found the audio continues come through. But before I keep babbling, have yourself a good day. Have yourself a good Wednesday. I will see you later in this week, hopefully Friday or Saturday. I plan to do another video. I may just do the luck of the draw, do a live stream, and see how many people show up. If it's one, that's more than zero, and I will make the best effort that I can. So I'll figure out on how to get notifications out to get all these listening and viewing public here notified that I'm going to do the best I can. Unfortunately, I haven't figured out how to mold my life schedule around international responses, or international time. So I'm hopeful to be able to make it convenient for people on beyond the East Coast of the United States, across the pond, as they say, and around the world, north, south, east, and west. There's people all over this world. Even I just want to give. Anyways, I'm not going to go down another thing. So I'm going to do the best I can to make myself available and this information available to people around all time zones and around the world. So until then, ciao, peace out. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with some ridiculous tagline. Seems more natural to me. But anyways, I'll figure it out. Bye for now, and I will talk to you later. And there we go. See ya.